Hello, and welcome to another episode of the America Safe, America Strong webinar series hosted by The Blueprint. My name is Jessica Morante, and I'm the Marketing Director for The Blueprint Corporation. Today's 20-minute safety solution is presented by Mark Galkin, East Coast Territory Manager for Portagas with Praxair. Mark has been in this role for the past 6 years, and prior to that, he was the former Airgas Strategic Account Manager for the Oil and Chemical Division for over 9 years. Today, Mark will be giving us a detailed look at Portagas's Portagreen cylinders and their patented strip and ship program. Portagas offers quality gas mixtures and regulators that are manufactured to the highest accuracy and backed by rigorous quality control processes. Their innovative products and outstanding service help to maximize your productivity. Over the next 20-ish minutes, Mark is going to take you through some unique solutions that can help keep your workforce safe. Towards the end of our webinar, Mark and I will do a Q&A session with some of Portagas's most frequently asked questions. So be sure to stick around until the end. We're excited to share this impactful safety solution with you today. So Mark, if you're ready, take it away.
I guess we did a pretty nice intro. I am, again, Mark Galkin, representing Portagas company out of Houston, Texas, which is now owned by Linde Corporation. My job is a business development manager for the East Coast of the U.S. and Canada. So anything east of the Mississippi is in my territory. Today, I'll be covering our strip and ship program, which is one of several regulatory environmental programs that we've come up with to basically be environmentally responsible and also very convenient for the customer. You'll notice that our cylinders don't come with MSDS sheets attached because we were cutting down a whole bunch of forests to do that. Now everything is tied to a QR code, which I'll cover briefly when I'm talking to you about the cylinder. But main initiative for saving money is basically getting these cylinders back. We could reuse these cylinders probably 4 or 5 times over the lifetime of the cylinder before we have to dispose of them. So it saves us money, it saves the customer money, and we'll get into that in the near future. So basically, when you get a cylinder, and I have a line up behind me, when you get a cylinder, it's going to come in a box, and it's going to come like this, in a plastic tube, sealed up. Plastic tube usually doesn't have any tape around the top of it because they seal pretty tight. You're going to get your cylinder. It's going to have all your pertinent information on the label. And you'll notice what I was talking about earlier. You'll see a little QR code. And the QR code on here can be scanned on an application that we have on iOS and Android that you download. It's actually called the Portagas app. And it'll give you everything. It gives you your MSDS sheets. It gives you born on date. It gives you disposal or expiration date. Everything else you'll need on this cylinder is tied to the QR code. But that's not what I'm covering today so much. I'm basically covering our strip and ship program, which is value added for your customer. Basically, you're going to use the cylinder until it's empty. How you know it's empty is the regulator goes onto it, and even gorilla hands like mine can put this on pretty easily. You're going to use it up until the gauge on your regulator reads 0. When it's 0, you know you're empty. A lot of times there'll be a little bit of residual gas in here past what your pressure can take down the line. So we would really appreciate it if you let off, if you bleed out in a well-ventilated area, the last remaining gas that might be in the cylinder before you send it back. They have to be empty. You'll take the regulator off. You put it back one thing that I forgot to cover is on the actual label, and let me find it. On the label will be your instructions for strip and ship. And it might be underneath. No, it's right here. Strip and ship instructions telling you the same thing that I'm telling you how to do this, how to return the cylinder. You're going to peel the label off on the perforated red line. Once you peel that off, underneath you will have a return label, either UPS or FedEx. We prefer FedEx. We get a much better deal shipping FedEx. But if UPS is your customer's preferred transporter, then we will send it. This one's actually made out to UPS ground. This gets handed to a UPS driver or dropped into a UPS shipping facility, and it comes back to us just like this. They can't refuse it. Every once in a while, we'll get a refusal because they just don't understand what they're dealing with. But if they check with their supervision, they'll find out that this is all ready to go. No charge to the customer, no expense to the customer. We pay for the return shipping because we want to get these back. But where that adds value to the customer is several steps. They get no hazmat fee shipping these back to us. They incur no disposal fee, which in most cases, if you have to get rid of one of these cylinders, you have to render it useless, meaning you got to poke a hole in it or take the valve off of the top of it before you throw it in the trash. It takes time and it costs money for the customer. The labor involved with rendering these useless, it's usually about an hour. No return fee at all. It's prepaid postage. And something else is you avoid any kind of fines for improper disposal of the cylinder. If these get thrown out with the valve still on it, the company can incur quite a hefty fine. It's unsafe to throw a gas cylinder out as it is. You have to render it useless. And then another bonus to the customer is the recycle program. I know we get credits from the government for our recycle programs. A lot of your customers will have such a program going where they list, I guess for taxes, they list where they saved environmentally safe programs, saved money, and saved the environment. So it's a win-win situation with these. Another thing that I didn't mention is that if your label is totally destroyed or gone, or you peel it off and there's nothing underneath and you threw out this label, we took care of that. We have on 2 places on this bottle, we have, I hope you guys can see that, we have another QR code that's tied to the actual label on this particular cylinder. So everything's scanned in. If it goes through a fire and it's still full, we could print another label just by the QR code that's on it. And that again can be scanned with your Portagas application on your phone. And I think that pretty much covers what I have to cover with the strip and ship. With that, I believe Jessica's back on.
Perfect. Thanks, Mark. That was a great presentation. So like you mentioned, we do have some time left, and we're going to get to some of those most frequently asked questions. So if you're ready, we're going to get right into it, okay? All right, the first question we have is, what do I do with the cylinder after it's empty?
Okay, after it's empty, you throw it in the, no, I'm kidding. You send it back to us. Again, it's what I covered. You make sure it's empty with the gauge. You peel off the label. You have a return authorization underneath it. You hand it to a FedEx driver, and it's coming back to us. So it should be no hassle whatsoever.
Super easy. Next question. How can I get a printout of my SDS for the cylinder?
Okay, and that again is tied, and I'm glad I covered that in the presentation. It's tied to the QR code, which I hope I'm close enough. The QR code on the cylinder can be scanned by you or the end user, and that's going to give them printable SDS sheets. They used to be called MSDS sheets, but now they're actually tied to an SDS sheet. And these are universal. We're all compliant with the latest, greatest paperwork that's needed for hazardous materials, and it's all tied to this. So you can send it to a printer, you can have electronic copies, anything else you need is tied to the QR code.
Awesome. That is very cool. Next question is, what can I do if the label is rendered unreadable? I know you kind of talked about this already.
Yeah, again, all of our, and I'll pick up any random one, and you'll see that underneath we have a QR code. Each of these, when we manufacture them, each cylinder is separately tested before we send them out. That's 100% QC. The QC process involves scanning the QR code on the cylinder at each step, make sure that this is the cylinder that we're saying the contents are in. It gets its label, the QR code on the label matches the QR code on the cylinder, and each step of the way it's scanned through. So by the time we're sending it, and that's something that we're proud of, is that we're getting less than 2 cylinder problems per 2,000 sent. So it's about 1 per 1,000 where we actually, and most of the time, will recognize a failure before it ever leaves the plant, like a leaking valve or something. But we still list that as a failure. So it's all tied to the QR scanners, and we're not sending out accidental labels.
Awesome. Very cool. Do I need to put the empty cylinder back in the plastic tube? That's a good question.
That is a good question. These, in my opinion, are kind of unneeded. I see a lot of them on desks as pen holders. They cut the top off and put things in them. We would like to get them back because we're still sending ours out every time with these plastic tubes. It's an expense. There was talk about not sending them in this tube because really it's not needed. But to prevent damage to the label in shipping, we decided that we're still going to ship them. So yes, we'd love to get them back. It's not necessary. We don't need them back. They will take the cylinder as is, but we would like to get them back.
Perfect. Yeah. Can I dispose of the empty cylinder myself?
No, you can't. I mean, you could, but again, like I said, you got to render it useless. The cylinder itself can't be thrown in the trash. That is a big no-no with OSHA. You have to they actually sell tools that could fit on the cap, and you take the cap off, and once this isn't able to hold pressure, then it can be disposed of. But that's an expense and labor intensive. So, and puncturing a hole in this is virtually impossible now. These are very, very high quality aluminum cylinders that it's tough to drill. So best bet is what we came up with 8 years ago is return them to us. So send them back to us. We appreciate it. We can reuse them. And when we do reuse them, they still go through the whole manufacturing process. I should have said that earlier. They get cleaned, chemically cleaned, baked, and then put back into service, even if we're going to use it for the same chemicals that were in it before. They're treated like brand new cylinders, and they're treated as if we're going to put a totally different chemical in them.
Very cool. Good to know. All right, so we've got time for one last question. And the last question is going to be, how do I determine that the cylinder is empty?
I have no idea. Again, the regulators that you guys are going to be using just to get the gas out has a gauge on it. It's going to read 0. There may be a little bit more gas in there, even if it's reading 0. It might not be able to pick up every molecule of gas in there. So appreciate it if in a well-ventilated area, you went ahead and opened up the regulator and bled off whatever remains of the gas in there before you hand it off to a FedEx driver. That's a big no-no, sending these back with gas in them. And that's why we print the instructions on the label. We talk to you about it. We have it on our website. And hopefully this video will also assist you in knowing sending cylinders back with gas in them requires a hazmat fee, and we will get in trouble and the customer will get a call from us saying, hey, we incurred this cost due to the fact it wasn't empty. So please empty them out before you send them back. And I think that answered the question. Did I go around?
Good to know. Do not send them back with gas still inside. All right, perfect. Well, that's all the questions I have for today, Mark. Thank you so much for your time. This is an awesome presentation, short and sweet and to the point, and really highlights how sustainable you guys are, which I think is really awesome, especially in today's world. We're all trying to be more environmentally conscious. So we appreciate that.
Thank you. And the whole purpose, again, and several of the things we build into our cylinders are environmentally conscious. We want to make it easy for the customer, and we want to differentiate ourselves from our competition with programs that are environmentally conscious.
Awesome.
So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Mark. As you can see, Portagas strives to provide a safe working environment. If you have questions on any of the products that we discussed today or want to get more information, please contact your local Blueprint rep to schedule your virtual or in-person discussion today. Also, if you have not done so, head on over to teamblueprint.com to check out our library of these complimentary safety solution-driven webinars. Stay tuned for the next episode of the America Safe, America Strong webinar series. I would like to thank you all for your time and attention today. Stay safe, stay strong, and go America.